Hello and welcome to my E3 2018 video. This video I'm going to be talking about the good and the bad of E3 2018, what I liked about E3 2018, what I didn't like about E3 2018. Originally I had planned to do 4 separate videos, and after looking at everything I felt like it made the most sense to just do one comprehensive video instead and focus on the positive things about E3 2018 and the negative things about E3 2018. So I'm going to go kind of in lopsided order here, and then at the end here I'll give you kind of some fun things about what I liked, what I disliked, and so on. So we're going to go ahead and start with the very first conference, which was EA this year. EA had probably the weakest press conference out of everyone, and the only things that I liked out of EA were Unravel 2. I think that's awesome. It dropped right away. That's a really cool announcement. I did purchase a copy of it, but I have not played it yet. I liked that they talked and showed more of Anthem, but that's also going to be a negative, which we will get to. Battlefield 5, I'm not a Battlefield guy, so I didn't really care about this. It's cool that they talked about it, but it's also kind of a whatever. And then they did talk about a new EA original game called Sea of Solitude, and I think that game looks really interesting. The last cool thing that I want to talk about with EA's press conference is they had Vince Zampella, the head of Respawn Studios, who made Titanfall and Titanfall 2. They have been tapped to do a Star Wars game. He kind of teased it here by saying that the title of the game is Jedi Fallen Order, and that's really potentially awesome. It's going to be an original story set between episodes 3 and 4, and this could be the sequel to the Jedi Knight franchise that I loved as a kid, and that would be really cool to see. We'll see more of that at next year's E3. However, when we want to talk about the bad and the negative of EA, I also have to throw Anthem into that category because they brought out Casey Hudson and some other people from that development team, and they kind of had a Q&A session about that game. And I didn't really learn much about that game during that Q&A session, and all I can gather from that game is it's a Destiny-like game. And they keep hammering home that they're going to have this big story in it, but I'm just not seeing it right now. So that was a negative of EA. Also, there were some franchises that just were absent, Need for Speed's probably on a break right now, and I'll say Skate 4, but there was no Skate 4 announcement, and that was probably the biggest shocker here because this seemed like the year out of every other year that we would get an announcement for that, and it just didn't happen. So overall, EA, I'm giving them a C grade. I thought they were EA. They did what they normally do. It was okay. It wasn't great, but it wasn't terrible either or the worst thing. However, they had easily the weakest of all of the press conferences. Next up, I'm going to talk about Bethesda. I'm kind of jumping around a little bit here. I think out of all of the third-party companies that had an E3 press conference, Bethesda easily had the best one. They showed a lot of things that I really care about and am interested in. Most importantly, they announced the sequel to Doom. It's called Doom Eternal. They're going to talk more about it at QuakeCon later this year. I'm really excited for that. I'm assuming that's a fall 2019 game. That's fine. They had a lot more about Rage 2. I think Rage 2 looks really cool because it seems like that game finally has an identity. And I think giving it over to Avalanche Studios, the people that made that most recent Mad Max game and who have also made the Just Cause games, I think that's a perfect marriage of id Software and Avalanche Studios into making a potentially really, really cool sequel to a game that nobody was expecting. Also, they announced DLC for Prey, and this is really cool. The thing that made me disappointed about this is they didn't announce any kind of Xbox One X enhancements or PS4 Pro enhancements, but they announced some free DLC for that game that looks really, really interesting. I'm finally excited to jump into Prey at some time over the summer. And then finally, obviously, they spent a huge chunk of time talking about Fallout 76. As we now know, Fallout 76 is the first multiplayer focused Fallout game, but it's not an MMO. It's more contained. However, the map is 4 times larger than Fallout 4's map, and there's a lot of crazy shit that you can do in the game. It seems potentially really, really awesome, and I'm also glad that they are doing a beta for it because this is a game that really needs a beta. Todd Howard came out and he was very candid about the game, and Todd Howard's always fun to watch at any of these conferences. It's fun when they let him out of his quote-unquote cage when he's, making these games for several years, because he really talks to the consumer in a way that makes it very understandable. Like, hey, this is the game we're making, this is what we're doing, this is what you can do, this is what you can't do. And unlike EA with Anthem, I felt I really learned a lot more about what Fallout 76 is here. And that was a really good showing for the game. And then the surprise of Bethesda's conference was the fact that they acknowledged and announced that Starfield is the next big game after Fallout 76. And they also name dropped and showed a title screen trailer for Elder Scrolls 6. But they were very, very careful to say that that is a very way far away game. If I were guessing, I'd say 2021 or 2022, which seems crazy to say right now. And there were a few awkward moments during it. They got Andrew WK out to perform. I thought his performance wasn't the best. And it was kind of an awkward thing where the audience just wasn't really into it. However, Rage looks really cool, and that kind of made up for it. Overall, I'm giving their press conference an A. I thought they did an outstanding job, and out of all the third-party conferences, they were the best. I would talk about Square Enix's conference, but it was only 30 minutes, and they kind of talked about known quantities there. They showed some more Kingdom Hearts stuff. Kingdom Hearts was shown at Kingdom Hearts was shown at Microsoft, Sony, and the Square Enix press conference, which I thought was a little absurd. However, EA, I'm not really counting Square Enix or giving them a letter grade because they didn't really show much at their 30-minute press conference direct video thing or whatever. However, they did announce a new Platinum Games game that is called Babylon Falls, and I thought that looked very potentially interesting, but we don't know more about it, and it comes out in 2019. Finally, we have to talk about Ubisoft. Ubisoft was the second weakest press conference out of everyone's. They had one thing that I was really interested in, which was Trials Rising, however, and that looks awesome, and I'm excited about that, and that's going to be a cool game coming out in February 2019, which it seems like every game is coming out in February 2019. However, they showed a lot of stuff I just don't care about or not interested in, or I'm puzzled, and they did not announce a new Splinter Cell, which is the most perplexing thing of everything, and I just don't understand why that didn't happen. However, they, showed Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'm not excited about that because I think it's too soon to put out another Assassin's Creed game. I like the fact that they took a year off to let that franchise breathe, and I feel like they risk cannibalizing that franchise once again. There was no new Ubi Art game, the Ubi Art studio that made cool games like Child of Light and some of the Rayman games. There was nothing new there. That was disappointing. Skull and Bones continues to look like a blah whatever game to me. It's cool that somebody else is making a pirate game, and there's definitely a market for that. However, this just looks so much like somebody thought, hey, I really like the ship combat in Assassin's Creed, let's make it a game, and that just doesn't appeal to me. So Ubisoft's press conference, it was a disappointment. I'm also giving them a C. I think they are a little bit above EA in the fact that they also had a Mario Rabbids DLC coming out in June. Later this month, actually, that is a Donkey Kong DLC. That looks really cool. They had some cool things, but I feel like their press conference was kind of whatever. They also talked about Beyond Good and Evil 2, but I'll be honest, I don't have a reverence for that game like everyone else because I never have played the original games. And you can fire off the comments about how I should play that game and how it's incredible and everything. I've never personally played it. So let's get down to the big three and who I thought had the best conference, the worst conference, and whatever. So we'll talk about Microsoft first. I think out of everybody, Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft killed it this year. They had an excellent press conference. However, you have to be a little reserved on this press conference because a lot of what they showed is building a foundation for the future. They don't really have a lot coming out in 2018. And you can look at it from that standpoint, but I think because this is a company that needs to build a foundation for the future, they're doing an excellent job building a foundation for the future. They acquired 5 new studios. One of them was actually a real surprise. They acquired Ninja Theory. That's pretty crazy when you think about it. However, they also acquired Compulsion Games, which are the people that make We Happy Few, which is coming out in August. They acquired Undead Labs, the makers of State of Decay and State of Decay 2. They acquired Playground Games, which has been rumored for a while. These are the people that make the Forza Horizon franchise, and they're also working on a new unannounced game, which is probably a reboot of Fable. The biggest studio announcement they have that wasn't one they just directly purchased or partnered with is the Initiative, which is a new studio in Santa Monica that has been tapped to build new games, and that's also potentially very, very interesting. That being said, they announced some other really cool things here. Obviously, the press conference opened with a stunning trailer for Halo Infinite, announcing that they have a new engine for Halo, which is called the Slipstream engine. And it's still up in the air on if this trailer was just a tech demo trailer for that engine, or if this is the next Halo game. They have confirmed that the next Halo game is indeed called Halo Infinite, like what was shown on that trailer. However, it is unclear if this trailer was going to be tied to that, or if this is just a case of, hey, here's tech footage of our new engine. It looks awesome, doesn't it? This was really exciting. It was exciting to see Master Chief's helmet. I'm really excited to see where they go with it. And I think in the long history of Halo reveal trailers, it stands up there as one of the better ones. Really enjoyed that. The other big thing I want to talk about that was exciting here at Microsoft's press conference was a lot of footage was shown for Gears of War 5. Yes, Gears 5 is a thing, and it's taking a direction that I did not expect the Gears of War franchise to go into. So instead of having the main character from Gears of War 4, JD Phoenix, be the main protagonist of this game, you're playing as Kate. And that's really cool, and she's going to have her own story. And it was interesting because there seems to be a time jump here in the story. JD Phoenix is looking completely different. He has a shaved head, he has a beard, his arms jacked up. However, this looks potentially really, really awesome. They said 2019. I feel like it'll be a fall 2019 game, but I also cannot imagine a fall where we get both a new Gears of War game and a new Halo game. So who really knows? But I feel like I saw way more of a new Gears game than I did Halo. So this game seems way farther along than whatever Halo is doing. Really enjoyed it. They also announced they're working on a Gears of War Tactics game. Did not announce who's developing it. And the footage they showed was really, really early concept footage, but that was potentially really awesome as well. They showed Ori and the Will of the Wisps. This game's still looking stunning. That's going to be out sometime in 2019. That was kind of the shocker here. It's not out until 2019. I really thought this would be an early August, September game. They also announced a DLC pack for Cuphead 2019. And that was kind of the running thing about Microsoft's press conferences. They showed a lot of cool stuff 2019, 2019, 2019. Devil May Cry 5. Devil May Cry 5 exists, and it's here, and it's coming, and that was on Microsoft stage 2019. They announced a new skateboarding game. I'm still unclear as to who's making this, but it's called Session. It's a skateboarding game, so of course I have to play it. It looked really cool. There was a nice, really awesome ID at Xbox montage that showed a bunch of the indie games that are coming up. A lot of cool things were shown and confirmed there. Really awesome montage, a lot of cool things coming. Finally, the last cool thing I want to talk about Microsoft before we get into the negatives of Microsoft is that the press conference closed with Cyberpunk 2077 and fantastic trailer for that game that kind of reintroduced that game to us without showing any actual gameplay to that game. The other thing that was interesting about Microsoft's press conference is they pretty much confirmed they're working on the next set of Xbox machines that will come after the Xbox One X. And then later I saw an article where they're talking about fall 2020, which this is going to be a separate video I do about next gen. However, that was interesting that they talked about this. The bad parts about Microsoft's press conference, not much in 2018. Crackdown 3 is coming out in February 2019 like every other damn game. That's very disappointing that that game once again has been delayed yet again. I feel like I've seen that at 5 E3s. I don't want to see that at E3 2019. Please do not do that. Again, not much coming out in 2018. That was probably the biggest disappointment here. You're getting Forza Horizon 4. Cool. The game looks cool, but that's kind of it for first party. The other thing that was weird was they talked about Sea of Thieves and announced two new content packs for that game that I'm assuming are going to be free, but they didn't explain what they are, and they did no good job of explaining what the hell that is. That was disappointing. However, everything else about Microsoft's press conference was very exciting and fun, and it was a traditional press conference that was enjoyable to watch from start to finish. They showed me that they are confident in not only their machines, but their brand as a whole, and they laid the groundwork for the future to come. I'm giving them an A. I thought their press conference was outstanding, and I enjoyed it from beginning to end. Next, we have to talk about Sony. Sony took an interesting approach this year that I think backfired in their face a little bit. So they opened their press conference in a separate part of their press conference. So instead of having it in the main area that they were going to have it, they did a separate kind of press conference presentation just for the Last of Us 2 footage. They kind of had it in a church tent type thing, and they had a guy come out and play the banjo, and then they showed content. They showed a new trailer with gameplay for Last of Us 2. This was fun and exciting, and that's a game that I really want to play. I love the original Last of Us, and I think Last of Us 2 will be an excellent sequel, even though, if we're being honest, Last of Us is a game I don't think needed a sequel. However, what put me down about the Last of Us stuff here is they gave us no confirmation of what happened with Joel. So I assume he's in the game because he was in the previous trailer. For some reason, Ellie's face looks completely different. I don't know what happened there. I'm still perplexed as to what happened there. And then no date, nothing. I at least thought this would be the time Sony would say, hey, it's coming out sometime in 2019. Nothing. So when is this game coming out? It obviously has to come out after Days Gone, but Days Gone is coming out February of next year, like every other game. So when is Last of Us 2 coming out? After that, they did the worst thing they could possibly do. They took a 20-minute intermission just to set up the next part of their press conference, and they kind of fired off some weird announcements. They thought they could put a nice band-aid on the situation by just giving everybody Black Ops 3 that has PlayStation Plus. I guess that's cool. I mean, I added it to my library, but I don't know if I care because I thought that game was bad. However, whatever, I get it. Then they talked about Ghosts of Tsushima, which I'm probably butchering the name. This game looks really cool. Again, I enjoyed all the footage I saw. This is a nice new original IP from the makers of the infamous franchise, Sucker Punch. And it looks cool and awesome and different. No date for it. Who knows when it's coming out? And that was kind of a running thing with Sony's press conference and their big 4 titles they wanted to talk about. After that, they took a break and they announced some cool shit, and they announced the single thing that I wanted out of E3, which bumped their press conference way up in my book. It is my favorite announcement from E3. It is the best thing that happened at E3 2018, and that is we finally got our trailer for Resident Evil 2 Remake. It looks absolutely incredible. It blew my mind, completely blew my mind. It looks jaw-dropping, stunning. It's everything I wanted this remake to be. It's built from the ground up using the new RE engine, which was the engine that they used for Resident Evil 7. It has an over-the-shoulder camera style like Resident Evil 4, 5, and 6, but it just looks incredible. I cannot stress enough how good this game looks. And it blew my mind. The trailer just literally blew my mind. I cannot wait for this game. And it has a release date of January 25th, 2019. So I'm a little bummed that I have to wait a while for that game, but now that I know it exists and I've seen extended gameplay of it, I cannot wait to play that game. One thing that's going to divide people on Sony's press conference is Death Stranding. I'm in the mindset now of I've seen too much of Death Stranding. I don't need to see this game every year for something that's probably not coming out until 2020 as like the last big game for the PlayStation 4. They showed gameplay of this game this time. It looks interesting, but I still couldn't tell you what Death Stranding is about. I'm still super into that game, but I just don't know what it is. The trailer was just as confusing as the previous trailers, but it was fun, and I'm excited about that game. Then we'll talk about the disappointments at Sony's press conference. First, for starters, it was poorly paced because of the beginning of it. I feel like the Last of Us thing should have been the lead-in for this press conference. However, the way they set it up, it kind of should have been the last thing they showed. Also, Spider-Man, I'm excited about Spider-Man, don't get me wrong. I don't need to see anything else about Spider-Man. Just give me the game in 3 months when it comes out. I didn't need an extended look at it anymore. I don't need to see any more about Spider-Man to tell you it's probably going to be a good game. No Bloodborne. They didn't announce a Bloodborne 2. Disappointing. From Software has some sort of VR game coming out. That does not interest me at all. No Rocksteady. Where was the Superman game? We didn't get an announcement of Rocksteady's Superman game at either press conference. That was disappointing as well. They had a sizzle reel of some other stuff at Sony's press conference, but overall, Sony's press conference was good, and it had stuff that I care about. However, it was poorly paced, and for that reason, I'm giving it a B-. I think they had some really cool stuff. Resident Evil 2 Remake pushed it way up. It's also important to note that Resident Evil 2 Remake is on both PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Finally, I want to briefly touch on Nintendo's Nintendo Direct that they put up. And this is the last thing we'll talk about in here. They had a solid Nintendo Direct. They talked about a lot of stuff. Their big focus was, of course, on Super Smash Bros. It's called Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. It has every fighter that's ever been in a Smash Bros. Game, and that's cool. Personally, I'm not a Smash Bros. Guy. I couldn't care less about the game, if we're being honest. I think it's really exciting for people that like Smash Brothers, but I've never been a Smash Brothers guy. So I kind of was disappointed in their press conference because there wasn't more for me. You know, they showed a new Fire Emblem, and Fire Emblem Three Cities looks awesome, but that's a terrible name for that game. That's spring 2019. The most awesome thing I saw at Nintendo's Nintendo Direct was a game called Daemon X Machina. This game looks incredible. It's a mech game. I'm really excited about it. That's something I would like to play personally, and I thought that was awesome. Other biggest thing that came out of Nintendo's press conference for me, of course, Overcooked 2. Now, it's been announced that Overcooked 2 will be on all platforms. However, this was an awesome trailer. Overcooked was one of my favorite games of 2016, and this looks like an incredible sequel that's adding online co-op this time as well. Octopath Traveler still looks incredible. That's coming out July 13th. They announced a slew of new indie games, including Hollow Knight, which is up at the time of this recording. I'm actually going to download that game for my Switch as well. Fortnite was announced for the Nintendo Switch. That's cool for the people that care about Fortnite. They also announced a new Mario Party called Super Mario Party. What was cool about this Mario Party game is that you can put two Switch units side by side, as in the handheld, and use the screen, and they can kind of combine together for the game board. That looks really cool. This game looks interesting, and it comes out October 5th. The disappointments of Nintendo's press conference was, of course, they didn't talk about Metroid. That was disappointing. They didn't talk anything about the Pokemon game that's coming next fall, the real true Pokemon next entry. Instead, they talked about Pokemon Let's Go. Not really interested in that game as well, but that's cool for the Pokemon fans that are interested in that game. Overall, Nintendo's press conference was cool. They had some cool minor announcements. I'm giving their little Nintendo Direct a B. I think it was solid. They showed some cool stuff, but I wanted more. Where was Mario Maker? You know, where was Metroid? I didn't get those. Hopefully I get those at some point in the next year, or at least an announcement of them. To wrap up this video, I'm just going to kind of shout out a couple different things that I put up here. I think overall the best conference was Microsoft, hands down. I think they had the best announcements, and they had the strongest lineup of what's to come, and they showed me a potentially very interesting and exciting future for the brand. I think easily the worst press conference was EA, although Ubisoft kind of ties with them a little bit. Obviously my favorite announcement, again, Resident Evil 2 Remake. I've been banging the drum on this game for 3 years. You guys see me talking about it on the channel all the time. Really cannot wait for this game. And then finally, the most poorly paced conference this year was, of course, Sony's. Their conference just did not flow the way that it should have. And then my final award here is please stop showing me until it's ready, and that's Death Stranding. I don't need to see any more Death Stranding until that game's ready. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed my E3 2018 wrap-up video. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And as always, until next time.